Dr. Kumar, thank you both very much. Great to get your perspective.
Yeah.
In some of the very first polling since the Roe versus Wade decision came out, a new CBS YouGov poll shows 59% of Americans disapprove of the court's decision. Among women, they found 67% disapproval. CNN senior political analyst Ron Brownstein and CNN chief political analyst Gloria Borger are here. Gloria, let me just start with that. I mean, so this is, obviously we keep hearing Democratic politicians who say that this will translate into motivation at the polls. It could change the equation of the midterms. Unknown.
It's completely unknown. I mean, they're hoping that it will. There's some recent polling that shows that maybe it is to a certain degree, but their hope is that it takes the focus off of what is not working for them, which is the economy, and allows people, particularly women voters, suburban women voters, to focus on Roe Wade and what they will characterize as a sort of right-wing, Republicans. And they're saying, these are the people you're electing. They're right-wing. This is part of their platform, and it's going to continue, and it's going to get worse. And as Joe Biden said, well, Roe's on the ballot in November.
Ron, you wrote a really interesting piece. I think it was in the wake of the Texas abortion ruling. They pointed out that the states that are limiting abortion the most also happen to be the ones that rate most unfavorably when it comes to economic conditions for children. And so I've been trying to ask this question. I think it's just the practical question. What happens when tens of thousands, let's take Texas for an example, of kids whose parents had decided they couldn't afford to take care of them, or for whatever reason were forced to have those kids? What is the plan going to be now to take care of those kids, to house them, to feed them, to care for them?
Well, past this prologue, the states that are poised or in fact already are banning abortion are going to do the least to help kids and mothers succeed. I mean,
in other words, you have state-forced pregnancies, and these people who call themselves Christians, who are practicing slave master Christianity, which ignores Matthew chapter 25, where Christ talks about, when I was hungry, did you feed me? Ignores the golden rule that we are to do for others, right? As we have them do for us, we're supposed to help, make a difference, go forward, right? Check out Luke chapter 6, verse 31, and Matthew chapter 7, verse 12. And we're supposed to love God, love your neighbor yourself. Who's your neighbor? Check out Matthew 22, and then check out Luke chapter 10. Good Samaritan, preacher messed up, deacon messed up. Samaritan, who's half black, half white, half Jewish, half Arab, is the hero. Is the person who had compassion, concern for the person in need. And so that's what it means to be a true Christian. Not a slave master Christian, not a church entity where you just go to church and that's it. No, but you take actions to make the world a better place. Do for others as you have them do for you. Do. Take positive, loving, kind actions to make the world a better place. That means Build Back Better Act should have been supported by the so-called other people, right? If you call yourself a Christian, you should be supporting programs that help all people everywhere. Also, there's one race, the human race. We're all human. Everyone has a right to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Don't forget John 10:10. Jesus says, I am come that they might, second half, I am come that they might have life and have it more abundantly, to the fullest, to the highest. That is your mission as a Christian, if you're a real Christian, and not a slave master Christian, following slave master Christianity, which was not Christianity at all.
the states that have the laws on the books that will now be activated by the decision by the Republican majority on the Supreme Court rank near the bottom on almost every measure you can think of: childhood poverty, low birth weight births, maternal deaths, access to health care for low-income women, coverage under Medicaid for people, for women after they give birth. These are states that are heavily concentrated among those like Texas that have refused to expand Medicaid. So you've got this situation where the state is saying you have to have this child, but we are going to do very little to help that child succeed. And it is a striking contradiction. But don't forget, these are also the states that have put in these triggers that have already, many of them, placed laws regarding restricting or banning telehealth for use of abortion, medication abortions. You were discussing about in your last section. It is a broad effort in these states to, as I've written, to roll back the rights revolution of the past really 60 years, to return us to an era in the 1950s and earlier where your rights diverged much more depending on where you live, and at the same time not provide the practical support that these new parents will need.
You know, this has always been a movement that, you know, it is really focused on politics and not on what you can do for these women if your laws get enacted. And now that the Supreme Court has done this with one fell swoop, this is going to cost these states a lot of money. They've got to figure out what to do now. And instead, what you hear is that they're talking about additional restrictions. They're not talking about, okay, we gotta spend money doing this to help these women who need this extra medical care, who need this counseling. That's not what they're talking about. They're talking about how to get more states to pass restrictive policies. And the truth of the matter is that no matter how much Joe Biden doesn't like it, he can't codify abortion rights into law.
But can you do something, Gloria?
And so what Democrats need to do is to reach out and explain to people the situation and that we're all in the same boat, right? There's one race, the human race. If you're a poor white person or a poor African American, a poor Latino, a poor Asian person, guess what? You're the same. Or a middle class person, you're the same. You're the same people, right? The Southern strategy is used to divide, right? Critical race theory. Hey, how about critical race Italian theory? Critical race Irish theory. Italians were discriminated against, mistreated. Go back to March 25th, 1911, the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory Fire. Also, check out the Irish there, too. They were mistreated also, okay? Yes, they had white skin privilege, but they were mistreated, okay? Mistreated, discriminated against. And that's a fact. It happened. Things are changing now in America. America is becoming more multiracial, multicultural, multi-ethnic, where people aren't concerned about what you look like, where you come from. Things are really changing. People are beginning to follow what Jesus talked about, right? Loving one another. Love you one another. Be concerned about one another. Have compassion for one another. It's happening right now. And that is Christ's mandate. Love. Love God. All your heart, mind, soul, and spirit. Love your neighbor as yourself. Who's your neighbor? Anyone who's in need of help. Compassion. Care.
And the reason I ask is because we've heard from Senator Warren, and we've heard from Congresswoman AOC, who were basically saying, all right, well, we'll have to use, maybe the Biden administration can use federal lands for abortion providers now. Are there creative things, do we know, being discussed behind the scenes?
They're trying to make abortion medication easier to access. They're trying to help people, for example, with travel to get an abortion. And you talk about using federal land, etc. But again, this is nibbling around the edges here. Yeah. The president, much to his frustration and Democrats' frustration, cannot do anything huge because while they passed a bill in the House protecting abortion rights, it's not going to go anywhere in the Senate. So it is very difficult. But again,
and that's where you have to explain to the American public that because they're using the racist filibuster, right, which is not the Constitution, that was used to deny people their rights over the decades, right? Because they're not carving out an exception for voting rights and other rights, you need 10 more Democratic United States senators in order to end that procedure of the filibuster. And it's okay they can't pass it right now. Keep on explaining that to American public so when they go to the polls, they'll put in United States senators that are Democratic. But you have to explain it to people. We need a functional, right, United States Senate, a governable United States Senate where you can pass laws. The Democrats don't have that. Yes, they have all three branches, executive, branch, right? They have the House. When I say branches, the two branches, right? Legislative and executive, right? And they have the Senate, but they don't have a functional Senate. They have a Senate by one vote, which is vice president.
And you can nibble away, but you can't do anything big.
Ron, your final thought?
There are two really choices Democrats face. One, I think Gloria was alluding to, is that there have been many voices in the party in the last few days who said that they should put on the floor. The House has already passed a bill codifying Roe, but Clarence Thomas, laid out a hit list of other rights that might be threatened: same-sex marriage, contraception, potentially interracial marriage. Put those, there are voices saying, put those on the floor. And force and pass them through the House and put them into the Senate. And the other thing that's probably even more consequential is, will 48 Senate Democrats sign a statement that says, and the White House support a statement that says, if they get 2 more votes, they would end the filibuster to codify Roe, carve out Roe from the filibuster. That is something that could be, I think, consequential in the election. There's a lot of voices in the Democratic Party already saying they should do that. I think that's going to be a very big choice that the Senate Democrats face in the next couple
And
of
Joe
years.
Biden has not said he's in favor of that. So,
Right.
that's where the pressure comes in on the president.
Laura Berger, Ron Brownstein, thank you both very much.
Well, whether or not the issue is you need 10 more, okay? 10 more Democrats. That's what you talk to the American public about.
Well, the House
Thank you for being on my YouTube channel, One Race, Human Race, All Human.
Select Committee investigating January 6th just unexpectedly added a hearing for tomorrow. What that means next. And as Russia
Today is Monday, June 27th, 2022.
makes significant advances in Ukraine, the U.S. is set to pledge more military assistance for Ukraine. That's it.